Hello lovely simmers, SimsEclaire here and welcome back to my channel. For today's video we are doing a real life to Sims build again. So basically this is kind of like a mini series. It's not really a series, I do them every once in a while, but I find a picture online or on Pinterest that I really like and really inspires me, and I recreate the house in The Sims. And this time there was this like large modern home. I'll put the picture up on the screen somewhere, probably covering my face for a minute. And it had all these like geometric features, and it was like a stark white and gray exterior, and it had this like rounded glass little back piece to it, and I thought that that looked really nice and really cool, and I really wanted to try and recreate it. Now obviously we don't actually have circles in building in The Sims 4, so it is kind of just like a large octagon that I used for that little glass piece in the back, but with the windows on you can't really tell, and I think that it turned out looking really nice. So jumping into the build, we have the shape of the house coming together really quickly. Like I said, I had the picture, so it wasn't really any like guess and test, it was mostly just this is the shape, this is what I built, and I'm using half walls around the front deck area. You can kind of tell in the picture the wall for the deck kind of like drops and then rises back up on the other side, so I recreated that by using different wall heights in The Sims. And then I also end up, because there's like this little brief fencing, like black fencing on the lowest part of the half walls, but you can't do that in The Sims. You can't add half wall trims to only sections of half walls, or if you can, let me know in the comments down below, but every time I try to do it, it adds it to the whole wall. So what I end up doing is like merging windows into it, and you'll see that when we get there. It'll be in a little bit, but I thought that that was, I don't know, I thought it was the best way to do it. And down here, I realized that there's another separate downstairs patio that uses the same like half wall effect, so I went ahead and just went in and deleted the wall that I had there so I could put in the half wall effect. And now we're adding some wall trims, because the way the columns work is that once there's like a foundation in there, it's really weird. The columns don't like match up. There's like a gap in between a column on the top level and a column on the bottom level, so I had to add in these freezes or trims so that way it would kind of connect the two columns, because the front of the house had these really large like white blocks on the like literally the very front of the house, but it's really hard to recreate something like that in The Sims, so I just used really large columns, but that led into the issue of the columns not lining up and me having to add in freezes. And now we're doing kind of a little bit of the front landscaping. So the front yard had this path that led from the front all the way around the back, and then from the driveway all the way around to the front step area. So I real quickly did the first half of the pathway, and then over here I had to use on, I think it's the same for Macs and PCs. I'm trying to remember how I used to do it on my Mac, and it's Control F on PCs, and I'm pretty sure it's the same, or Command F on Macs. I'm pretty sure it's that. And basically it lets you only place triangle squares on the floor instead of full tiles, and I utilized that to kind of create the shape of the rounded path around the side. And then here we are using some garden path stones and merging them together, because the walkway up to the front door had a separate area not attached to the driveway, but it was in like stepping stones, and if I were to use the same flooring that I used for the pathway, I'd only get like one stepping stone, so I ended up using the garden path stone so I could get a little bit more. And the tones are a little different, but I think it works out okay. And then going into the window situation. So we all know we don't have angled windows in The Sims, and yet whenever I do these real life Sims builds, I always pick builds that have angled windows. So what I tried to do to recreate it was just use different sizes of windows, so that way you still got the slant, even if it wasn't necessarily as like cohesive as actual slanted windows. And I know that there is a custom content, I think it's by Peacemaker, that has slanted windows, but I don't really build with a lot of custom content. I have my 2 packs that I actually did not end up re-downloading onto my computer, because the Sims Kyo one kept telling me it was broken, and then the Tiny Living one was in the same furniture file as the Sims Kia one, so I just deleted both of them. And because of that, I didn't really want to download any more Windows. Not to mention, I feel like Windows break on every single update. Like every time I'm on Twitter, there's people complaining about the Windows, their CC Windows breaking, and I really just prefer not to have to deal with that all the time. So I'm just gonna hope and pray we get angled windows, and until then, I will makeshift like I did in this build. And then over here, this is the circular wall of windows. So all of the windows in this build had like lines running through them, but they were like thick rectangles like stacked on top of each other, and we don't have any windows that match that exactly. So I was basically merging together the medium wall height eco lifestyle windows and the short wall height eco style windows. So that way we could get it's not technically even, it's like a larger center piece of the window with then broken off for two smaller pieces. And I did the same thing in the front. I just only did it once because I only needed the one line. And then here is where I'm trying to find the right piece to place on the half walls. I filtered out everything that was black because I knew that it had to be a black piece. And I found these spa day windows that are basically like these really tiny rectangles, and I just placed those. They actually like snapped into the half wall place. So I just placed those all around the half wall, and it doesn't look exactly like the picture, but I think it looks close enough. And I liked how it looked with the rest of the windows that I had chosen because it had the same kind of line features as those did. And then going into here, the picture that I have, I'm sure you guys noticed, it was kind of like evening or nighttime. So you could see where all of the exterior lighting was. So I real quickly switched my camera over into night mode so that way I could place all of the correct lighting. And I placed some on the floor. You can see I used the floor lights from Perfect Patio, I think it is. And then the Romantic Garden lights, and then I used Get Famous wall lights for the exterior lights on the actual walls. And then there's a couple of planters in the front of the build, and the one here that I'm working on right now also has this weird geometric figure, and I thought that it was probably the mailbox, and that's why it was just in the middle of the yard, but we don't have mailboxes that look like that in The Sims. So to recreate it, I first off changed the plants that I had in the front because they were too tall and it was messing up everything that I was trying to do. But then I used this spa day like end table that we got, and we got a rectangular version and a square version, and you can see I have it placed over there. And I basically just placed that in front of the garden planter. Now I don't end up sticking with these garden planters. You can see I'm trying to find better ones because they were like really tall wispy grasses inside of like gray cement planters. So I found these, and they weren't big enough, so I merged two of them together, but they were the closest ones that I could find. And I end up really liking how they look because the gray tone of the cement in these planters matches the gray tone I used on the walls and the foundation. So I thought that it matched. And then the landscaping for this lot was very basic. It was just a whole bunch of like bulb style plants and bulb style bushes. So I placed a mix of some white ones, some pink ones, and some all green ones, and I just placed them around, not really sporadically, but not like completely next to each other to where it looked like a very lush garden. And then back here, the back of the house was completely my design. It's nothing too fancy. It kind of just played off of the features of the front of the house, and I also really wanted the glass piece to kind of be the focal point, so I didn't want to do anything too major, but I do end up adding this double stairway back patio, and then it leads into the pool. So the pool is flush up against the back patio. You'll see me build it in a minute, and it has the staircases going down on either side of it, and then you have fountain pieces that I merged together that sit on top of this half wall. And basically, if you're in live mode and you're not on pause, the fountain will like spew into the pool. So I thought that was kind of cool. I haven't really done anything like that. Even on like my super mega mansions, I haven't done any water features like that. But I used these spa day ones which shoot like directly up, and then I merged in these fish that like shoot out, so that way it'll actually land in the pool. And I thought that that was just kind of cool, and it was like the right amount of extra for this house, because this house is definitely extra. And then here we are starting with the furnishing of the build. So right here by the front door, I get 2 matching plants and 2 matching exterior lights. And then we have this little alcove over here that I'm not 100% sure is inside or outside in the actual build itself. You can't see it in the picture. I decided to make it outside because I wasn't quite sure what type of a room I would build if it was going to be on the inside. So I just real quickly put together this like outdoor sitting area. There's another one that almost completely matches it upstairs that I did cut out of the video. It's literally the same furniture, just in a different color. And the video was almost like, when I sped everything up, the video was 45 minutes long, so I was kind of trying to pick and choose things that were repetitive or not really necessary for the build that you guys wouldn't have to see me do. Like things that I do all the time, like bathrooms. All of the bathrooms in this build use the Seasons stuff. You don't need to see me do 5 bathrooms in Seasons decor. And like this patio is almost exactly like the one upstairs, so I cut out the upstairs patio. So it's just small things like that. But I used the wall decorations from Eco Lifestyle, the wooden plank ones, just to kind of fill in that space and to bring the gray in, because all that whole area was white, whereas the rest of the house was gray and white. So I thought it definitely needed a touch of that gray. And then in here is the entrance area on the inside of the home. So I'm getting 2 mirrors. It's the Eco Lifestyle ones. 1 in white, 1 in gray. There's a lot of white and gray in this house. I also tried to bring in some lighter toned woods that weren't necessarily white, but were on the lighter end. And then also some hues of blue I tried to bring in because I thought blue matched the gray really nicely, and then blue obviously goes well with white. So I thought that blue was probably the best color to bring in, especially since this is a family home. I don't think that it would be all black or white and gray because that doesn't really scream family, but I wanted to bring in some sort of a color. And then over here is the entryway table. I always do one of these just because every house I've ever had has an entryway table, because you know, you come in and you throw your keys on there or you put your shoes underneath, and it's kind of just a place where anything that you use on a daily basis that comes with you in and out of the house, you just leave it there. And then over here is a little reading corner. Now there is also an office upstairs, but it doesn't have this big of a bookcase, so I figured it was okay that I went ahead and did a nice little reading nook back here. There's also a little bit of an entertaining space. It has a bar and a music, a stereo, so I thought that maybe while they were entertaining, they had the music on, they had the stereo, they had the drinks, that they had this little area to like kind of extend the entertaining, because this is an open floor plan ish. The only part that's kind of blocked off is the dining room, but even then you'll see it because we're about to move over there in just a minute. The dining room is only split by these like spandrels. It's columns and then spandrels, so it's still open. It's just has a definite partition, so that way you don't have to constantly stare into the dining room if you're trying to do other things. But if you have people who are sitting in the dining room, or if you're entertaining like I've been talking about, you can go ahead and still see the people who are sitting on the couch or sitting by the stereo or sitting by the the reading nook that I have over here. And so it still has like a flow of communication, but it's not completely open. It still has that little bit of separation if you are looking for more of like a cozy dining experience. And then now that I've completely talked about it while not building it, this is now the dining room. I used the Seasons table mixed with these Get Famous chairs. These Get Famous chairs are the only chair that I could find that actually matches the black wood tone on this table. Even the ones from Seasons, they have more of like a grayish tint to them, and I don't know if it's just me, because it very well could be, but I've always had an issue finding chairs that actually match the wood tones of the Seasons table, or any table for being honest. And I know that that's like a big complaint about The Sims, is that a lot of the different tones don't match, particularly the white tones. Those never match. But anyway, moving on. So over here in the corners of the dining room, I'm just trying to place some things that made sense. I added a hutch and a little table off to the side, so that way you could have like some plants on it or some extra materials if you needed it. And then in here in the living room, I use the City Living, very modern, all glass stone base fireplace. I don't think I've ever actually used this fireplace. I'm not even gonna lie. Because whenever I put fireplaces in homes, they're always very traditional, very rustic style homes, so I use the fireplaces that match that better. But I thought that this one, because it's kind of like a gray and white, I thought that it matched this home very well. And then I place a TV above it and some windows on either side to kind of fill in the space and also bring some light into this room, because this was like the only section of the house that did not have any windows in it. The windows from like the ones you can see in the background don't actually shine in on that side of the house, so it would have been a very dark room compared to the rest of the house. So I did add a couple of windows, and then I'm going through and just filling up the wall space with some pictures. And as you can see there, I added a cat tree or a cat scratching post, and there's a cat tree upstairs, but I did not add any food bowls for this supposed cat that they have, or a litter box. So I will go in before I upload it to the gallery, and I will add those objects if I remember. If I don't, then you can either delete the cat tree and the scratching post, or you can add the other two things that you need. I just totally spaced after placing the cat tree and the scratching post that I was supposed to have a cat in this build, because the house itself has 4 bedrooms. I imagined a set of parents, a set of grandparents, and then a teenager and a child living here. So that's 2, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 Sims. So in theory, you can have one more. I think it's 7 per household. So in theory, you could have one more, so you could have a pet. If it's 6 per household, then you cannot have a pet unless you only have one parent or one grandparent. So keep that in mind. But I don't do a lot of gameplay, so I'm not 100% sure on what the max household limit actually is. And then going into the main bedroom, this bedroom is basically all black and gray, and I really like how it looks. I don't know. I would never do this for my bedroom, because I do, in my personal life, actually enjoy certain colors, you know, like reds and browns and tans and stuff like that. But for some reason, this bedroom just looked really nice in this all black and white color scheme. And over here, I'm about to create like a custom closet unit, kind of. It's not built into the wall, so it's not really a closet. It's more of just like a dresser. But I merged these Vintage Glamour, I think is the pack that these came with, these Vintage Glamour dressers, and with this Seasons dresser, and then I placed some wall length mirrors behind it, so that way it was like this a whole mirror, basically. That's what it is. And then like a little chair off to the side, and then I just added some decorations, you know, some perfumes, some books, some cologne and stuff like that. And I am going to mention that glitch with the windows, where when you look into a mirror, you can't, it like gets rid of the windows, it's like all wall. I thought it was done because none of the mirrors I had been placing had been doing that until I took the pictures of this bedroom. This mirror here is the only mirror I have found that still has that glitch. So if anyone from the Sims teams is watching, I highly doubt they are, but if they are, please fix that mirror, because the ones I have in the kids' bedrooms upstairs and the Eco Lifestyle one I have in the living room down here do not do that, but for some reason that one mirror does. I don't know if it's the size of the mirror, I don't know if it's the programming, because the mirror has no like frame on it. I don't know what it is. But that's my little rant for today. Now we're on into the kitchen, and it is again a black and white kitchen. I used these Perfect Patio, I think it's Perfect Patio on it. It actually might be Backyard stuff. I always get those two confused. But it's the ones with the marble countertops and the stone fronts, and I flipped some of them around so that way you didn't have these drawers on every single unit, but then I kept some of them facing forward so that way your sim could have access to their kitchen, they could actually use it. And at the time I wasn't going to build a island, which is why I did that, because I wanted them to have the ability to use the kitchen, but I do end up building an island, so it doesn't really matter. And if you end up disliking these black drawers, then you can just move the sink over to the island, and then it won't matter because your sim will be able to use it. And then over here I end up free placing one of these stools because I didn't like how far away it was from the other ones, but I'm placing the same matching stools for the chairs that they have in the dining room. It's the ones from Get Famous. And then I merged together a couple of these lily pots from the Build and Buy menu, and then I shrunk down the trash can from Snow Escape to kind of make it look like a wooden vase. I wanted a bigger flower feature to go in the middle there, but I couldn't find one that I really liked the size of, and I really liked how the lilies looked because they were the same white as the rest of the kitchen, so I decided just to kind of merge all of those together. And then over here is kind of like the less formal dining table. Now, all of the dining tables, except for the big one in the actual dining room, but this one and then the one outside on the back deck only have five. Oh no, just kidding. I just miscounted. There's 6 tables. There's 6 chairs. Ignore me. Moving on, because I just totally miscounted on that one. We have an end table next to the dining table. It has just a couple of clutter decorations on it, and now we're moving into the upstairs office. So the office is kind of a part of the open floor planning. It is separated the same way that the dining room is, so it's separated by the spandrels. And if in case you're wondering, those are the spandrels from Snowy Escape. They're just really thick and white, and I thought that they looked the best with this whole modern theme we got going on with this house. And I added 2 desks, both with their with their own computer. English, Emily. And I figured that both parents had like corporate jobs. Maybe one was a business person and one worked in fashion, or one was a journalist, something like that. But I definitely thought both of them had jobs that needed computers. And then over here is the little kids area of the office. So I get some different kids decorations around, and I gave the teenager a computer, because usually that's how I differentiate between kids desks and teenager desks in my head, is that the teenager has a laptop. Because I feel like high schools nowadays really do require a lot of their learning to be online. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's still... And I don't mean nowadays because of what happened in 2020. I mean just like in general. Like, I don't think I could have done my schoolwork at my high school way back when if I didn't have access to a computer, because a lot of the time you had to submit papers online, or you had to, they had to be typed and they had to be printed in a certain way. So it was just, we had one kid, actually, taking a break from the build for a minute. There was one kid who refused to use like modern technology. He didn't have a cell phone, he didn't have a camera, and he didn't have a computer, but he had a typewriter. So he brought in all of his school homework on typewriter paper, and he typewrited all of his assignments, all of his essays. Like, this kid literally had like 8-page essays typewritten, and the margins were perfect. Like, my teacher would like pull out a ruler because he was trying to like get this kid to like not use the typewriter, because it was really hard to read the typewriter ink and everything. So he would pull out a ruler because he was trying everything in his power to make it seem like this kid should not be using a typewriter. But the margins were always correct, his citations were correct, his formatting was correct, and so my entire senior year this kid just used a typewriter, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. But now we're going into the teenager's bedroom. So the bedroom I just talked over was the grandparents' bedroom, and it was nothing super fancy, except I did add a knitting corner because I thought they might have knitted, or one of them knitted. And then in here, like I said, this is the teenager's room. So over here I got the black mirror with the light bulbs on it. I thought that this sim was a little bit artistic, a little musical. Like, they weren't really sure what they wanted to do with their life, but they were very creative. They were really into the arts, into movies, into music, and they kind of just were this very eclectic soul. So I gave them like a really dark bedroom, and I angled their bed to kind of show their edginess, I guess. I also never do angled beds in The Sims, except for when I was doing my horror house series and I recreated the Beetlejuice home, and the teenager in Beetlejuice has an angled bed, so I had to do it there. And honestly, the style of that bedroom kind of reminded me of when I redid the Beetlejuice house, so I think that's another reason why I angled the bed, because the color schemes for the 2 bedrooms were very similar. And then in here is the child's bedroom. So this room's a little bit brighter than the teenager's room. They haven't quite, reached their edgy aesthetic age yet. And they have a couple of posters on the walls of, I figured they're like favorite stuffed animals, their favorite TV shows, stuff like that. Over here I get a dresser. It is one of the ones from Parenthood, because I always filter out like 5 packs when I do decorations for kids' rooms because they have the most in them, and I forgot to unfilter those, so when I went in, I was just being really lazy and picking out only the objects that were from those 5-packs. But then I went in because I really wanted this modern dollhouse because I figured it kind of matched the house on the exterior. So I went ahead and did the modern dollhouse and then gave them this little kind of kids corner where they had all their toys. They had a like measuring thing to figure out how high they've grown and stuff like that. And now we're on to the backyard. So the backyard is very simple. I just placed a couple of decorations around the pool area and some outdoor seating. But besides that, that is it for this video. So I hope you all enjoyed this one. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all next time. Bye!